I'm going to try to do several things here in the next 45 minutes. I'm up for manufacturing, and I came out of manufacturing. Manufacturing is always trying to figure out how to do multiple things at the same time, parallel process. I don't know if you experience this when I cook in my kitchen. Every time I touch something, I put it away. If I make a move and I make it twice, I kind of mad at myself, so I try to figure out how to go from maybe the toaster to the oven or to the refrigerator and get as many things as I can when I go back to the toaster. My wife is totally different. My wife doesn't put anything away. Flowers all over the place. And so we don't survive very well in the kitchen. The point being here is that when I talk to you today, I'm going to try to deliver maybe 3 or 4 points at the same time. The first point that I obviously want to make is that this couldn't be done without you. I appreciate Mr. Baker saying that this is started here. It has been started in the hearts of many, many people. All right, Bo and I are very seldom in agreement on anything. But one thing we did agree upon is that when the book came out, it wasn't necessarily about rocket science. It just touched a lot of hearts. Okay, it just touched a lot of things inside of people that they really kind of felt it was the right thing to do. And so I have to tell you, and I was telling John at the table earlier, that you have no idea what we get from you. I mean, I can come up here and I can tell you where we're at, and I can tell you, because I'm still an operating CEO, we have a living laboratory, we practice it every single day. I can tell you what we've learned, mistakes we made, okay. But a lot of times I can come here and just tell you what my biggest problem is, and then by the end of this conference, you solve it for me. You don't know that you are a vast wealth of knowledge. And if you don't realize that, you need to be talking to the people next to you, because this is a tremendously outstanding group of people who lead with their hearts, all right, that really are here to do and learn and to do the right thing. So one of the things I want to do is basically kind of just give us a refresher course in terms of the business. And I think many of you have seen this before. This is kind of a really simple way of trying to explain what the great game of business is. It's just 3 interchanging circles, and it has this point in the middle of the circles where they all emerge. I think one of the things that's interesting is there's a lot of definitions in terms of the critical number, and I'd like to clarify that after I touch on some of the macro elements of the bigger circles, okay? The first circle is obviously we've always believed that if someone's going to come into one of our businesses, it would be a really good idea to tell them what business they're in. I mean, not only from the standpoint of their skill sets, but also who do they compete against, all right? Some people don't like to use sports as an analogy, but, it's really simple to say that if you're going to play any kind of a game or any kind of sports, it's probably a very good idea that you know the directions, you know the rules, and things of this nature. And we have a tremendously intense process in terms of mind dating as much as we possibly can relative to markets, relative to competitors, relative to, what are we going to do to be able to win in that particular area? Once we set up the metrics, once we set up the parameters, okay, now we got to figure out how to communicate the information to the people. How do we convert the stories into the numbers? How do people understand the numbers? How do the people believe the numbers that we're giving them? And we came to the conclusion a long time ago that the only way we can get them to believe the numbers is for them to submit the numbers to us. And it's ironic to see just how hard people are on themselves, and many times we're faced with kind of trying to slow it down, even though we've provided them all the data in Circle 1, which will tell them which are the best in class, what are the highest metrics, all right, who's outperforming in terms of the marketplace. But time after time again, our people will come in and try to exceed that. We kind of slow it down with providing a stake in the outcome. We said, look, we just believe that we've got to be at top of our class relative to the market. We benchmark our compensation programs, our benefit programs, to be as high in the market space as we possibly can. And then we believe that anything in excess of that, all right, if you beat the market, they deserve better than market. So we now have incentive programs. And I'm giving you a kind of a view of this at a 40,000 foot level, okay? I mean, that's what its simplicity is, all right? Give them the directions of monopoly, obviously start playing the game. Everybody understands what their net worth is in a program of that nature, and then obviously left standing is the person that made the right property decisions in the course of the game, something of that nature. Okay, so that's the overview. What I really want to kind of get to is a critical number, because people use critical numbers for a lot of different reasons. You can use your critical number for any reason you want. We use a critical number for one specific purpose. Once we accumulate all the data from the people, and we've talked to the people, and they've laid out their strategic plans, okay, and they've laid out their financial ratios for a given year, we take all those financial ratios together and we huddle in a room and we say to ourselves, what is the one number that can take us out? What can beat us the most, all right? I mean, critical is critical is critical is critical, all right? I'm proud to say that this year we're having record level of activities in almost every single element of all the financials across the board. I mean, our critical number is not sales. Our critical number is not earnings. Our critical number this year is not cash flow. I know this is not arrogant. I am not bragging. This is done by the people inside of our organization. Because I believe that the critical numbers in most organizations change quite frequently, whereas many and most companies will keep a profit-sharing program for a real long period of time. We found out early in our careers that profit-sharing programs get boring. They don't communicate things. A lot of people don't understand where they get them. You miss the education process by not having the right critical number. The opportunity to be able to communicate, to learn, to achieve, to celebrate. But more importantly, what we look for in terms of the critical number, what is the long-term effect? What's the one that could take us out? I see a lot of operations, and they know what their critical number is, but they're more focused maybe on net income, or maybe they're focused on cash flow. But I also don't think that in a lot of cases they don't have the courage to really attack the critical number. I mean, when I watch our people, the great game people, working with new people, I mean, it's like, we'll just start anywhere. Just start with a number and get everybody behind it, and then this is the beginning of it. And we debated a long time ago, do you start out with knowing to teach the rules first, or do you really go back into a stake in the outcome? And, I've always been a believer is give them the big picture, give them the statistics, okay, and let's talk about the vulnerabilities. Let's put the vulnerabilities on the table, and then let's use that third cycle in terms of risk and reward, and if, in fact, they're able to overcome the numbers, then we can make certain that we're secure over a long period of time. We talked a long term yesterday, and we're going to break into groups in terms of our forecasting techniques, and we're kind of obsessed with our ability to be able to forecast so far out and so accurately. Our forecasting technically runs almost in the 96th percentile from actual to plan on an annual basis, which is remarkable. Over the last 5 years, our earnings, based on our forecast, when you go back and look at the actuals to plan, are now running at something in 93% accuracy, and they would have been in the 96% accuracy had not the barrel of oil dropped from $100 a barrel to $50, which we didn't have in terms of our analysis, knowing the rules of the game. Although we did know that if you're going to play in the oil industry, it's boom or it's bust. And it's really seductive. And they're really, really high margins. And we got greedy, and we had no contingencies, and we went in there. And about the year 2014 or 15, we ended up writing off $7 million after we massaged ourselves with those earnings in the 3 previous years. But had we hit that number, the accuracy which comes from the people inside of the organization is almost at 96%, on the top line 96%. And that is a very, very powerful metric. We often believe that if we can accurately forecast, we can control our business. Sometimes we say we can control the world if you can figure out how to forecast, that you know what's coming, that you can see around corners. And you do that by this obsessiveness in terms of the data that you mine constantly, you mine daily, you mine on every sales call, you mine at the gathering, and the information that you can take from everybody else. So one of the things I really wanted to do is put this emphasis on this critical number, all right? I mean, for 35 years, I can't tell you the number of critical numbers we had, but we've had a multitude, over 50% differences in critical numbers. We've had a critical number recently, okay, to build a war chest because we think there's a downturn in 19. Many of you heard this, you know, and it's kind of a comical joke. I've been forecasting a recession in 19 for 10 years. People are wanting to see whether it's going to happen or not. They hope that it doesn't happen or not. I don't care if it happens or not because we're prepared for it. I mean, we are actually trying to we've been through 4 recessions, so we've got quite a history. We also know if we're well prepared for a recession, things go cheaper. Prices of businesses are extraordinarily high right now. Buildings are high right now. Commercial properties are high right now. Expansion is extraordinarily difficult for us because the economy is roaring. It's exploding. It's not roaring, it's exploding. And these are not the necessarily times for our company to make really good strategic moves, so we pay a lot of attention to the businesses that we have on hand, and we go to bed at night with one eye open looking for opportunities, but more importantly, looking for opportunities when there's a downturn, because we have been able to grow the value of our company 5 years after every recession. We've been through 4 recessions, so it only makes sense for us that we start saving a little money, that if in fact there is a recession, that we can buy buildings at a cheap price, we can look at businesses at a lower multiples, and we can expand our businesses a lot easier than it is in a very, very expensive period of time.